Hello guys, this is Nick with PhoneArena, and the phone I have with me is the ZUK Z1. ZUK is one of the youngest brands on the smartphone market, and its first smartphone aims to strike a good balance between design, hardware specs, software experience and price. But how well has this balance been achieved? Well, let's take a hands-on look at this prototype unit that we've been testing for a few days and see what it has to impress us with. So this is the ZUK Z1. It is made with practicality in mind and it appears to have been built rather well. The solid metal frame is nicely rounded for a smooth transition between the glass panel and the plastic backplate. Overall, the phone feels okay in the hand. Some might find it a bit too large and heavy, but we can live with its considerable size and weight, which are to be expected from a phone carrying a 5.5-inch display and a massive 4100 mAh battery. The plastic back has a glossy finish and it's not removable, meaning that you have no access to the battery. Below the screen of the Z1 there is a physical home key, which is quite stiff, but not annoyingly so. Inside it there is a built-in fingerprint scanner, which is nice. These here are the capacitive buttons for going a step back and for bringing the recent applications menu. One cool thing about the Z1 is the USB Type-C connector. It is reversible, meaning that the cable goes in either way. However, your old micro USB cables aren't compatible, which is a bummer. A huge asset in the Z1's arsenal is its display. It measures 5.1 inches in diagonal and has a resolution of 1080 by 1920, which produces more than adequate details and pixel density. The software running on the ZUK Z1 is CyanogenOS 12.1, which is based on Android 5.1.1. While it looks and feels rather stock, the interface has been treated to a few notable improvements. One of them is the addition of themes, which are used to give the UI a whole new look. We also came across these so-called profiles, which are configuration presets that are activated under certain conditions, when you connect to a particular Wi-Fi network or Bluetooth device, for example. There is also a built-in audio equalizer. As far as hardware goes, you get a Snapdragon 801 with the ZUK Z1. Yes, the Snapdragon 801 from last year, with a 2.5 GHz maximum clock speed. On one hand, it is odd seeing a chip from 2014 inside a phone from 2015. But we don't really mind. After all, the 801 is definitely an adequate piece of silicon for a mid-range phone and performs well in synthetic benchmarks. Plus, you get 3 GB of RAM and a very generous 64 GB of storage. However, there is no microSD card slot present, so storage expansion is out of the question. The ZUK Z1 has a promising 13-megapixel camera based around a Sony sensor. This right here is a dual LED flash, and at the front there's a 5-megapixel camera for selfies. Unfortunately, we are disappointed by the camera application, and not only because it isn't pretty. Some buttons are too small to be used comfortably, and the scene selection menu is confusing to use. Advanced camera controls are lacking, but you do get control over ISO, exposure, and JPEG compression levels. As we already said, the ZUK Z1 has a non-removable 4100 mAh battery, which is considerably bigger than what many other phones have, including high-end models. That is why we are optimistic about the Z1's battery life. The ZUK Z1 feels a bit rough around the edges, but given its no-contract price of €300 or around $340, it might turn out to be a pretty good deal. In exchange, you get a big display, a reasonably fast processor, tons of memory, and a huge battery. Plus, some users will be glad to know that the ZUK Z1 runs the Android-based CyanogenOS 12.1, which is close to stock Android, but adds a number of meaningful improvements to the overall experience. So that concludes our first hands-on look at the ZUK Z1. For more details, check out our website PhoneArena.com.